All right, what's going on, everybody? I appreciate all you guys for tuning back in. Just to be very blunt, this is a little bit late to the game, this video. I apologize. I've been taking care of a few things offline, and I'm finally back, so I apologize for the little hiatus there. But I'm going to go over, just give you guys my personal thoughts and opinions on the Binance Fud, kind of how that affects Profit Trailer, PT Feeder. I want to go over a little bit of the SEC news and then do a little Bitcoin and market analysis for you. So obviously we're looking at a lower 24-hour volume. We're also looking at a quite a bit substantially lower market cap. And that's due to the catalysts that we've seen over the past couple of days drive these prices down. And there's a few things, in my opinion, that we need to be aware of. One, these prices being driven down, $9,500 for a Bitcoin is still a very substantial number. You know, we started 2017 with the Bitcoin price at like $900 or somewhere in that range, right? Or maybe 1,000. So we're still 9x from the start of 2017. So those are some really, really healthy gains. So, I'm still looking at it that way. Just kind of from like a very bird's eye view. Just to kind of put things in perspective. So this market is still experiencing its growing pains, and that's something we need to realize. So before I get into the TA, I'll just go over this SEC article that you guys have probably seen. I'll just kind of throw in my thoughts. Basically, the SEC said in a statement on Wednesday that online platforms trading digital assets that are considered securities need to register with the agency. So this kind of drove a bunch of FUD, and then in the middle of the day on Wednesday, a bunch of news was coming out that Binance was hacked, and that's a bunch of FUD. It wasn't hacked. There was an issue with their, API keys, and there was, according to Binance, it was a phishing attack. Basically, people were putting their API keys in suspect websites or giving their API keys away, or somehow they were hacked. Not much information has really come out from what I've researched, so if you guys have any more information on, the Binance stuff, please post it in the comments. I'd like to see that, because I've been kind of scouring around for like a real straight answer on what happened, and it seems like they're just still investigating. But this right here drove a lot of FUD into the market, and I'm not really sure why, because in the long term, these markets need to be regulated, and I get that it's crypto, and that everybody wants to get away from the regulation and from all this stuff. But if you want these coin prices to rise, then you need retail investment to come in, and you need more, institutional investors to come in as well. But the more institutions that come in, the more money they have, the more manipulation power they have. Just look at the futures trading and stuff. If all these retail investors are leaving the market, then these institutional investors have all the power to just screw over the retail guys. And I don't necessarily agree with heavy regulation, but I do think, a small amount of regulation is a good thing. And I think these exchanges should have the KYC implementation. I think they should have some sort of rules to live by, so that way the regular retail investor like you and me aren't going to get screwed over from some bad business decisions that these guys are making. These crypto exchanges are some of the most profitable businesses in the entire world right now. And they've just recently hit the map, right? So, I mean, you look at, what was it? Poloniex got bought out by a Charles Schwab backed company. I forget the name of the company, but they got bought out for like $400 million. That's some big money. And if a company that's backed by a huge bank like that is buying an exchange, this stuff is the real deal. Now, I think that a little bit of regulation isn't necessarily a terrible thing. The only problem I see with this statement, and this is probably why it caused some FUD, is the SEC doesn't really know what they're talking about yet when it comes to cryptocurrencies. They say, if a platform offers trading of digital assets that are securities and operates as an exchange as defined by the federal securities laws, then the platform must register with the SEC as a national securities exchange or be exempt from registration. The SEC staff has concerns that many online trading platforms appear to investors as SEC registered and regulated marketplaces when they are not. Many platforms refer to themselves as exchanges, which can give the misrepresentation or misimpression to investors that they are regulated or meet the regulatory standards of national securities exchanges. So that is true. I think that a lot of people blindly put their money into crypto, or they were during this giant market run up. And don't worry about this. We'll get to that later. But during this giant market run up, all the FOMO that was being installed into everybody's brains was insane. And random people were just getting involved in crypto who've never even purchased a stock in their life. And I do agree, like, you go to a securities broker. Charles Schwab, who is a great example. We just talked about them. You go to them, they have a fiduciary responsibility to you. You go to a stockbroker, or I guess a fiduciary would be someone who has a fiduciary responsibility to you. But you go to these kind of people and you expect some sort of rules and regulations to help have your back as an investor. Now, these exchanges don't owe you anything. And so that's why I think, over time, there's going to be growing pains, and we're all experiencing it right now. But over time, I think the SEC will come along with these big banks that are getting in bed with crypto exchanges, aka Schwab and Poloniex, all this stuff. And then it's going to continue to happen. More banks and institutional investors are going to come in, and they're going to write the rules, probably very similar to how it's playing out in the stock market, or how it has played out in the stock market in the past. So I guess that's enough of that. We'll go into the Binance stuff kind of to wrap this up. But Binance has reassured customers that their money is still in their accounts following hours of speculation that the cryptocurrency exchange had been hacked. So CZ, who is the Binance founder or chief executive, he tweeted yesterday that all funds are safe. There were irregulations in trading activity, automatic alarms triggered. Some accounts may have been compromised by phishing from before. We are still investigating. All funds are safe. This is the last I could find about this information. So, more or less, I think Binance is safe. I think all exchanges, it's not necessarily 100% safe to keep your money on an exchange. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because Profit Trailer, if you're using PT Feeder, Profit Trailer, or PT Magic, or whatever you're using, or even those other bots, HasBot, or, whatever. If you're using those, you're keeping your money on the exchange, and you run the risk, and the risk that your money can be stolen from an exchange. And there is, due to what the article we just read about, there are no real safeguards in place for exchanges to have the customers back. So if you get stolen, those exchanges don't have to pay your money back. And so that is why I think in the long term, this is a good thing. This is a good article. It came at a really bad time, because then Binance ended up, all the FUD about Binance being hacked came out. But basically it says, as of this moment, the only confirmed victims had registered API keys. So I've heard reports of other people who didn't have API keys, but as far as I can tell, it seems that people were inputting their API keys on sketchy sites, or giving them away, or, using a trading bot that was not secure. But one thing I wanted to go over is in Binance, you can go into your API keys and lock those things down to your IP address. And I highly recommend doing that, because then the only way somebody can mess with your coins that you're storing on Binance is if they are using your IP address. And that is possible if you install some malware or something on your computer. And there are ways that this can happen, but I mean, it's just an extra level of security that we, as the Profit Trailer and PT Feeder community, should be implementing, just so stuff like this doesn't happen to our trading bot in our community, right? So I've been seeing a ton of videos like, oh, I hate trading bots, they should be banned, and all this stuff. And let's remember that trading bots are used in every financial market. There's no way around it. It kind of gives us, as the retail investors, some really cool power, and we get to, go to the beach or walk around or go to sleep, and our bot is trading for us, and we put in a lot of time and energy into honing these settings in the way we want them. So I think it's kind of ridiculous. I see the point when these huge institutions have these high frequency trading bots, and those are going on in crypto as well, but it's just on a much smaller scale. So I don't like the argument that bots should just be completely disabled, especially in a market this size where we kind of have, first movers advantage at this point by using these trading bots. So, I'm going to continue to use Profit Trailer. I'm going to continue to use PT Feeder. I've had great results with it. I was not part of the hack, or the API key problem. I hope none of you guys were. I feel really bad for the people who were. I guess it's a lesson learned. We all make mistakes, and that's what happens. It's a bummer, but for the time being, if you're going to continue to use PT Feeder or PT Profit Trailer, please go into your Binance and lock those things down to your IP address, and use 2FA on everything. I'll probably be doing a video on all of that in the coming days, but I'll just real briefly go into the Bitcoin chart. So this is a 200 EMA, and I just wanted to bring this up real quick. This has been a really good support line in the past. So we've touched it many times, like here. We didn't touch it here, but we broke through it pretty rapidly here. We had a huge spike in volume, and we just plummeted down to the ground here in our recent low at 6,000. And we bounced back up, and we've gotten close here, and we touched it here. So I'm really hoping that this wave of FUD is over, and that we can kind of bounce off this 200 EMA and continue kind of capitulating or consolidating in this region. And then we can kind of get a healthier market and maybe bring some more volume in. Cause as I said, we're at a very low trading volume. Things are all negative. So the sentiment has definitely turned negative. No new money is really coming in. So I'm waiting for some more institutional investors to get involved. If there is another lower low, it is possible that we do see this. Where is that? It is possible that we could see this ABCDE wave play out. And, I guess it would be more like this, but it doesn't really make sense at this point to me. That's why I deleted it. So I'm more looking for some consolidation in this region. The RSI on the 4-hour and on the 1 day, we're not oversold here on the 1 day, but on the 4-hour, we're pretty heavily oversold. And that's generally a pretty good signal that we should see a bit of an uptick in price action. So there are really no Elliott waves since the last ones I drew. In one of my last videos, we had something going on like this. We had that Elliott wave, and we had a bit of a correction, an ABC correction here. And we really haven't seen anything kind of come to fruition. So I'm still waiting on a little bit more data here. So this is a good sign that we're in this oversold territory. And I would say just hang on. I would say hodl, because realistically, with big news, coming in like the Poloniex news I just talked about, if you can grasp the idea that huge banks and huge institutions and big companies, Fortune 500 companies like IBM, Boeing, McDonald's, even these giant companies are starting to invest heavy resources into blockchain technology, this stuff ain't going anywhere. And that's why I'm really not worried. You're going to have to ride through these market cycles. And I've said in previous videos that it is possible, if you look in like maybe a 5-year trend, or even less than 5 years, you could see this as the 1 wave, and the 3 wave is just going to be massive. And then the 4 wave will come back down, and then the 5 wave will be huge on maybe like a 2 or 3 year scale. And if you look at it that way, then you're really not worried. And that's why it's basically what you have to do as a trader or even a holder, and especially in such a small market like this. So with that said, guys, if you enjoyed the video, got any value out of it, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell so you get updated when I post new videos. I'm going to be posting some updated settings with the stop loss limits and everything coming up real soon. So stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Take it easy, guys.